Chosen one, stop. There is a story they tried to erase from every holy book ever burned. A story rewritten by trembling hands to keep you from knowing the truth of your own power. Low, intense whisper. They told you to fear the dark. They told you the devil never bows. Not to saints, not to kings, not to armies of heaven in full flame. But they were wrong, because they didn't know about you. Authoritative, steady tone. You walked into his throne room like it was a back alley you'd walked 1,000 times before. No armor, no psalm on your lips, no angel at your shoulder. Just you, your footsteps, your breath, your heartbeat that refused to accelerate even when the air turned to sulfur and the light died in your throat. And he felt you before he saw you. That is the part the scribes leave out. The devil tastes the air for fear like a wolf tasting blood from 3 valleys away. And when you entered the first circle of his kingdom, he stopped mid-sentence, mid-taunt. He turned his head, and for the first time since he fell from grace like a lightning bolt, the devil felt something cold run down his spine that was not from hell's eternal draft. He did not know what you were. That was the problem. This story lives in the cracks between canon and heresy. It is the one where the chosen one does not just resist temptation. They conquer the tempter. Booming, calm authority. Not through power. Power he understands. No, you conquered him through something he had never encountered in 10,000 years of existence. You looked at him like he was ordinary. Let that sink in. The morning star turned midnight. The dragon with 7 crowns. You looked at him the way you might look at a landlord who overcharges for a leaking apartment. Annoying, manageable, ultimately forgettable. For 1,000 years the prophecy sat in the vaults of heaven. The chosen one will stand before the devil and not fall. Not fall, that was the limit of heaven's imagination. They asked for survival. They asked for a soul that could weather the flames like a stone in a river. But you read what was hidden between the words. You asked a question that had never been asked before. Why just not fall? Why not make him fall? Deep breath. The angels prepared you for defense. Michael himself stood at the foot of your bed and said, "You must not bow. You must not break." You nodded, and then you threw every single thing they taught you into the fire. Not out of arrogance, but out of a quiet certainty that had been growing in your bones since childhood. You realized something the archangels never understood. The devil does not fear resistance. He feeds on it. Every prayer you throw at him is a meal. Every shield of light you raise is just another wall for him to climb. What he has never seen is indifference with teeth. Slow, rhythmic pacing. Not apathy, not the shrug of someone who has given up. No, you carried a stillness that was not empty, a silence that was not absence, a gaze that did not look away, but also did not flinch forward. You were just you, and somehow, impossibly, that was enough. Hell's gates did not lock behind you when you entered. Booming sound effect. They shattered, not because you broke them with strength. You touched nothing. You spoke no word of command. The gates shattered because they recognized something older than damnation in your pulse, something that had been there before hell was dug out of the corpse of a dead universe. The gates remembered. They remembered a time before rebellion, before sin, before the word fallen meant anything. They felt the breath that spoke them into being, and they felt that same breath in you, not because you were divine, but because you were alive in a way that hell had not encountered in eons. Low, intimate tone, the return hook. You were not running from anything. You were the one they had been waiting for. If you feel that stillness rising in you now, do not ignore it. This is your awakening. Type "I am the stillness" in the comments to claim this authority. Like and subscribe to this channel, for we are uncovering the truths they tried to burn. You belong here, among the ones who no longer fear the dark. Whisper. Stay tuned for the next revelation. Your journey has only just begun. Deep breath. Every soul that ever crossed hell's threshold before you was fleeing. Fleeing judgment, fleeing death, fleeing the weight of their own choices. Even the bravest among them carried a thread of escape in their hearts, a secret door they hoped to find, a prayer they had not yet surrendered. You carried nothing. No escape plan, no backup prayer, no angel on standby to pull you out if things went wrong. You walked into hell like it was a room you had always meant to visit, like checking an item off a list, like someone who had already made peace with every possible outcome, including the one where you did not come back. That terrified the first circle more than any exorcism ever could. The first circle. The liars. They never stop whispering. They have been whispering for millennia, each voice layered on top of the last, a cacophony of deceit so dense that new arrivals often go mad within minutes. The liars do not shout. They do not threaten. They simply tell you who you really are, over and over, in voices that sound like your own thoughts, until you believe them. They whispered your secret shames as you walked past. They told you about the time you hurt someone and never apologized, about the promise you broke when no one was watching, about the thing you wanted so badly that you almost sold yourself for it, about the face you make in the mirror when no one else can see, about the lie you told so often that you forgot it was a lie. You smiled, not a saint's smile, full of forgiveness and light, not a madman's grin, full of chaos and fracture, a smile of someone who has already died inside and found it peaceful, a smile that said, yes, I know all of that, I have sat with all of that, I have held all of that in my hands and turned it over and looked at it from every angle, and I am still here. You're not pure enough to be here, one of the liars said, and for a moment its voice was so close that you felt its breath on your neck. Low, cold tone. You said nothing, because silence, when they expect a prayer, is a weapon they cannot parry. The liars fell quiet one by one as you walked, not because you defeated them, because they realized that you had nothing to defend. No armor meant no cracks to slip through, no prayer meant nothing to corrupt, no shield meant no edge to get behind. You were simply there, a presence they could not manipulate, and manipulation is the only language hell speaks. By the time you reached the third circle, the fallen angels stopped attacking. At first they had tried. Demons lunged from the shadows with claws that had torn saints apart. Wraiths screamed prophecies of your doom in languages that predated human speech. Fallen princes hurled curses that had made empires crumble and kings forget their own names. None of it touched you. Booming authority, you felt every claw, every scream, every curse. But you did not stop. You did not speed up. You did not change your expression. You simply continued walking, each step as measured as the last, as if you were on a morning stroll through a park that had seen better days. Deep breath. And after a while they stopped. They just parted. Like water before a stone that refuses to sink. Like smoke before a wind that does not know how to stop blowing. They parted because their aggression required a reaction to survive. And you gave them nothing. No fear, no anger, no righteous indignation, no prayer for deliverance. Just the steady rhythm of your footsteps on obsidian. The devil was waiting when you finally reached his throne room. Of course he was. He had heard your footsteps from the first mile. Every demon who fled from your path had carried news of your approach. The liars had reported your silence. The fallen princes had described your impossible calm. By the time you reached the final door, the devil had been preparing for hours. But here is what he did not expect. You were not tired. He had expected exhaustion. He had expected doubt to have crept in during the long descent. He had expected the weight of hell's atmosphere to have pressed something fragile out of you. Every other soul who ever reached his throne room arrived broken, weeping, begging, bargaining, or screaming. They arrived as victims, even the proud ones, even the angry ones, even the ones who swore they would never kneel. You arrived like a guest who was slightly late to a party they were not sure they wanted to attend. authoritative, steady tone. His throne room was a cavern so vast that its ceiling was lost in darkness. The floor was polished obsidian that reflected no light, because there was no light to reflect. His throne was made of rusted crowns, each one taken from a king who had sold his soul for power. Around him stood his generals, beings who had once been archangels and were now something else entirely. And in the center of it all, seated on the throne with one leg crossed over the other like a bored emperor, was the devil himself. He was beautiful. That is the part the paintings always get wrong. They show him as a monster, red skin and horns, because it is easier to hate a monster. The truth is harder. The truth is that the devil is beautiful, in the way a frozen lake is beautiful right before the ice breaks. In the way a perfect apple is beautiful when you do not yet know about the worm. He had the face of everything you ever wanted and could not have. That was his power. He didn't look like your fear, he looked like your deepest desire, shaped into a smile. His voice was the voice of the person you trusted most in the world, saying exactly what you needed to hear. Melodic, intimate tone. "The little lamb comes to negotiate," he said, and his voice was warm, almost kind, like a grandfather welcoming a child into his study. You did not answer. You walked past his generals. You walked past his concubines of regret. And you stopped exactly 3 feet from his throne. 3 feet. Close enough to touch. Close enough to see the way his beauty cracked at the edges, the way the light bent wrong around his form. "Speak," he said, and now his voice was less kind. A little edge had crept in. "Your God is not listening here." That was his second mistake. Because you did speak. Deep breath. Neither loud nor soft, neither prayer nor demand, but something in between that hell had never heard before. "Father," you said, "if you can hear this through the static of his rebellion, through the lies he has wrapped around this place like bandages on a wound that will not heal, through the distance he has carved between your throne and his abyss. I am not asking for help. I am not asking for rescue. I am not asking for a sign or a sword or a single angel to tip the scales." You paused. Long pause. "I am telling you to watch. Thunder above hell. Impossible thunder, because there is no sky in hell. No clouds, no weather except the weather of suffering. But the thunder came anyway, rolling across that obsidian ceiling like a drum that had been silent since the day the devil fell." The general stumbled. The weeping popes looked up with eyes that had not seen hope in centuries. The concubines of regret covered their ears, and the devil flinched. Just a little. Just a fraction of an inch. But you saw it. He saw that you saw it. And in that moment, something shifted between you that could never be shifted back. The devil has won every debate for 10,000 years. He debated Job until Job cursed the day he was born. He tempted Christ in the wilderness with scripture quotes so perfect that only the Son of God could resist them. He made saints weep blood in their cells, made hermits see visions of women they had never touched, made monks break vows they had kept for decades. He has argued with the best minds of every generation and left them all doubting, questioning, wondering if maybe, just maybe, he had a point. But you did not debate him. That was his third mistake. He assumed you came to argue. Everyone comes to argue eventually. The atheist argues that God does not exist. The believer argues that God will win in the end. The philosopher argues that good and evil are just names for chemical reactions in the brain. Everyone wants to convince him of something, to prove something, to win something. You wanted nothing. "What do you want?" he asked, and now his voice was stripped of warmth. Now it was just sound, just vibration, just the mechanical noise of a being who had forgotten how to ask questions without expecting certain answers. "Power, I have power beyond your imagination. Pleasure, I have pleasures that would burn your nerves to ash in the most exquisite agony. Revenge, name the church that failed you, the family that hurt you, the lover who betrayed you. I will deliver them to your feet weeping. You waited until he was finished. No. You said, one word, one syllable. It landed in that vast throne room like a stone dropped into a still pond, sending ripples through the darkness, through the generals, through the weeping popes, through the devil himself. Deep breath. Then why are you here? He asked. And for the first time you heard something beneath his voice. Something that might have been confusion. Something that might have been the beginning of fear. You took a breath. You let it out slowly. And then you told him something that no one had ever told him before. To show you something you have never seen. The devil leaned forward on his throne of rusted crowns. His generals leaned with him, a ripple of attention passing through that dark court like wind through a field of dead grass. The weeping popes stopped weeping. The concubines stopped breathing. Everything in that room focused on you with an intensity that would have crushed a lesser soul into powder. And what, the devil said slowly, could you possibly show me that I have not seen in 10,000 years of watching every soul that ever lived? You smiled again, that same smile, the one that said you had already died inside and found it peaceful. Someone who knows exactly who they are. The devil blinked. He had not blinked in centuries. He had not needed to, but he blinked now because your words had landed somewhere unexpected, somewhere even he had. Not fallen, you continued, your voice steady as stone. Not saved, not redeemed, not damned, not chosen by God, because God's choosing comes with strings attached and expectations buried in the fine print. Not chosen by the devil, because the devil's choosing is just a leash with a longer rope. You took one step closer, 2 feet from the throne now, just chosen, by myself. Not because I am special, not because I am powerful, not because I am pure or holy or worthy, or any of the words you use to build hierarchies of value. Chosen because I woke up one morning and decided that I did not need anyone's permission to exist. The devil's throne cracked. Sound of a sharp crack. Not a loud crack, not a dramatic explosion of stone and metal, just a hairline fracture thin as a spider's thread, running from the armrest to the base. But everyone heard it. Everyone felt it. The throne had been uncracked for 10,000 years. The throne was made of the bones of the universe. The throne should have been unbreakable. And that is when it happened. The devil did not fall to his knees from power. He had faced power before. He had faced God, and he had not knelt. He had faced the full force of heaven's armies, and he had not knelt. He had faced the void itself, the absolute nothing that existed before existence, and he had not knelt. He fell from recognition, because in your eyes, in your stillness, in your impossible refusal to perform for him or for God or for anyone, he saw something he had forgotten existed. He saw himself. Not the devil he had become, the bitter tyrant of an empty kingdom, the prince of a realm that existed only to punish, the one who had asked questions, the one who had wondered, the one who had dared to say no to the throne not out of jealousy, but out of a love so fierce that it could not fit inside the rules. You were his mirror, the one he had broken long ago, and mirrors do not ask you to kneel, they simply show you what you are. His knee hit the stone, heavy thud. The sound echoed through that vast cavern like a bell tolling for a funeral no one had announced. Above, in the place we call heaven, the music stopped. Deep breath. Not because they were told to stop, not because the song ended, because they simply could not continue. The next note would not come. The next harmony would not form. They stood there, mouths open, instruments raised, and nothing came out except the silence of absolute astonishment. God felt it. If there is a God who feels surprise, who experiences the unexpected, who can be caught off guard by the actions of a single soul in a single moment, then God felt it. The throne of heaven, which had been steady since before time was measured, trembled, just a little. Just enough for the angels to notice. Just enough for the seraphim to cover their faces not in worship, but in confusion. The rules had been clear, the rules established before the first atom cooled, before the first star ignited, before the first breath of the first living creature, said that only God receives the knee of the adversary. Only the Creator, only the Infinite, only the one who spoke light into darkness and called it good. But the devil was not kneeling to God, booming steady tone. He was kneeling to you. And no one, not the angels, not the saints, not the prophets, not the councils of bishops, or the conclaves of cardinals, or the synods of every religion that had ever existed, no one had prepared for that possibility. "What are you?" the devil asked, and his voice was not the voice of a tyrant anymore. It was the voice of something ancient and tired and terribly, terribly lost. The voice of a son who had left home in anger and could not remember how to come back. The voice of a general who had won every battle and lost the war before it began. You looked at him. You looked at the being who had terrified humanity for 10,000 years, who had inspired half the art and most of the nightmares, who had been blamed for everything from plagues to parking tickets. And you saw what he really was. Tired. So tired. You did not answer his question. Instead, you did something that made heaven and hell hold their breath at the same time. You knelt. Not to worship, not to surrender, not to acknowledge his power or his authority or his ancient, terrible beauty. You knelt to be eye level with him, to bring your face to the same height as his, to look into his eyes not from above or below, but straight across, equal for a moment, two beings in the same posture on the same cold stone. "Get up," you said. Low, calm authority. He did not move. Deep breath. "I did not come to replace you," you said. "I did not come to defeat you. I did not come to take your throne or claim your crown or add your rusted trophies to a collection I do not want. I came to tell you something that no one else will tell you, because they are too afraid of what you represent." You paused. "Your war is boring." The devil's eyes widened. "Your rebellion is tired. You have been doing the same thing for 10,000 years, making the same arguments, offering the same temptations, falling into the same patterns. You are not the great adversary anymore. You are a routine, a habit, a speed bump that every soul learns to navigate by the time they reach their second decade." You stood up. Slowly, easily, without ceremony. And hell is not impressive. It is just a cave with good lighting and a marketing budget. You have convinced the world that you are the greatest threat they will ever face, but you are not. The greatest threat they will ever face is their own belief that they are not enough. And you did not create that belief. You just exploited it. A single tear hit the obsidian floor. From the devil's eyes. Not a theatrical tear, not a manipulative display of emotion designed to win sympathy. A real tear, the first one in 10,000 years, forced out by something that felt like truth and tasted like salt and would not be stopped no matter how hard he tried. The generals looked away. They could not watch. The weeping popes began weeping again, but differently now, with a sound that might have been hope. The concubines of regret lifted their hollow eyes. And above, in heaven, God's hand hesitated over the book of judgment. The book of judgment had never known hesitation, no second thoughts, no revisions, no doubt. But now the hand paused, because the rules did not cover this. The prophecies did not mention this. The eternal plan, the blueprint of existence, had a blank space where you were standing, a space that had been left empty on purpose, waiting for someone who would not play their assigned role. You were not the hero heaven expected. You were not the villain hell feared. You were something else. Authoritative, clear tone. You were free. Not free from consequence, not free from pain, not free from the thousand small deaths that every life requires. Free in the way that matter is free to become a star or a stone or a flower or a grave. Free in the way that silence is free to become a prayer or a curse or nothing at all. God was shocked. Not because you made the devil kneel. No, God was shocked because you did not ask for applause. You did not turn to heaven and demand recognition. You did not strike a pose and wait for the ovation. You did not hold the moment, stretch it out, milk it for every drop of glory. You simply finished what you came to do, and then left. You walked out of hell. Fading sound of footsteps, deep breath, not in triumph, not in defeat. Just walked, the same steady pace you had used on the way in, the same measured footsteps on the same obsidian floor. The demons did not attack you on the way out. The liars did not whisper. The fallen princes did not curse. They simply watched you go, and in their watching, something shifted that would never shift back. You walked past the third circle, past the first circle, past the shattered gates that still lay broken on the ground. You walked until the air smelled less like sulfur and more like rain. You walked until the darkness began to thin, to gray, to show the first hints of a dawn you had not expected to see again. And then you went home, pause, to a small house, to a cold meal waiting on the kitchen counter, to a cat that did not care about cosmic wars, that did not know you had made the devil kneel, that meowed at you for dinner because its bowl was empty and its patience was not infinite. You sat down in your chair, you ate your cold meal, you scratched the cat behind its ears, and you did not tell anyone what had happened, because what was there to tell? You had not won a victory. You had not claimed a prize. You had simply stood in the presence of evil and refused to be impressed. That was the whole thing. That was everything. Low, steady authority. Here is the truth they hide in every myth, every scripture, every holy book that has ever been written, and every unholy book that has ever been burned. The devil kneels not to power, but to presence. Not to the strongest fist or the sharpest sword or the brightest halo. He kneels to the person who cannot be flattered, threatened, or shamed into performing for heaven or hell. He kneels to the person who has stopped asking for permission to exist. Deep breath. You are that person. Not because you are perfect. Perfection is a cage, and the devil knows how to rattle every bar. Not because you are pure. Purity is a ghost, and the devil knows how to chase it until it disappears. Not because you are strong. Strength is a muscle, and the devil knows how to wait until it tires. You are that person because you have sat with every shadow inside you and decided to stop fighting them. Not to embrace them, not to banish them. Just to sit with them the way you sit with a tired friend who has nowhere else to go. You have looked at your own darkness and said, "You can stay, but you do not get to drive." The devil has no answer for that. He has no strategy, no temptation, no argument that can penetrate a soul that has already made peace with its own complexity. You cannot blackmail someone who has already confessed. You cannot shame someone who has already forgiven themselves. You cannot threaten someone who has already died and found that death was not the end, but a door into a larger room. God was shocked that day, but you were not shocked. You were not surprised. You were not standing at the pearly gates with your mouth open, waiting for a reward that would never come, because you knew something that both heaven and hell had forgotten. Something that had been written into the fabric of existence, and then buried under centuries of theology and fear and the desperate need for certainty. You knew that the throne was always empty for a reason, not because no one was worthy to sit on it, not because God was hiding or absent or playing an elaborate game of cosmic hide and seek. The throne was empty because no one was supposed to sit on it. The throne was empty because the moment someone sits down, the game becomes about keeping the throne instead of about living a life that is actually fun. Deep breath. The throne is empty, so that you would not waste your time trying to find it, so that you would not spend your wild and precious life jockeying for position in the hierarchy that exists only in the minds of those who have forgotten how to just be here. Now, present, awake, alive. Now go. Authoritative tone. Go back to your life. Go back to your small house and your cold meals and your cat that does not care about cosmic wars. Go back to the work that needs doing, the people who need loving, the wounds that need tending. Go back to the ordinary, miraculous, boring, beautiful business of being a human being on a planet that is spinning through space and somehow still managing to hold you gently. And make them kneel, not in worship. Worship is for gods and fools. Make them kneel in recognition. Make them see that you are not here to be used, not here to be saved, not here to be conquered or converted. Make them see that you are here to live. And if anyone asks who sent you, tell them the truth. Tell them the chosen one has no name, only a choice. The choice you made when you woke up this morning and decided that you did not need anyone's permission to exist. The choice that made the devil kneel. The choice that shocked even God. The devil's greatest trick was making you think you needed God to defeat him. But you do not need God. Pause. You just need to remember who you were before anyone told you who you were supposed to be. And then be that person, without apology, without performance. Just be, and the rest will kneel. Long, dramatic pause, warm, resonant authority, the call to action. Chosen one, the world will try to make you forget this truth. Do not let them. If this revelation shook your spirit, subscribe and turn on all notifications now. This is your sanctuary. Like this video as a sign of your power, and comment below, I am the choice. Share this with one soul who is still fighting a war they've already won. Tell them they are free. Go now. Walk without fear. I will see you in the next revelation.